Look at history. Look at human anatomy. Look at the stars. The number 33 appears again and again as a seal of culmination. There are 33 vertebrae in your spine, the ladder by which the vital energy of life ascends. The master of Christianity reached his apex at age 33. And 33 is the supreme degree of Freemasonry, the title of the Sovereign Grand Inspector General. Society has conditioned you to believe this degree is a political rank, a designation within a covert organization reserved for a chosen few in shadowed chambers. That is the fabrication for the uninitiated. The forbidden truth is that the 33rd degree is not an office. It is a state of consciousness. It is not conferred upon you by a man with a gavel. It is granted to yourself when you conquer the beast of your own lower nature. Humanity is divided into two invisible castes: the profane, those who dwell outside the temple, who exist like rough stones, crude and battered by the hammer of circumstance, rolling formlessly through life. And the initiates, those who have taken the chisel of will and sculpted themselves into perfect cubic stones, capable of bearing the weight of the world without fracturing. This audiobook is the liturgy of your ascent. We are not here to discuss conspiracy theories. We are here to confront radical self-governance. The 33rd degree is the point where you cease being the laborer who struggles with matter and become the grand inspector who commands it. It is the moment when duality dissolves, when good and evil stop being adversaries and become the black and white tiles upon which you walk. Through these 10 laws, you will travel the path from the quarry to the dome. In the first phase, you will learn to silence the profane and impose order on chaos. In the second phase, you will receive the instruments of the craft, the square of righteousness and the compass of the Spirit. And in the third phase, you will sit upon the inner throne, assuming the sovereignty that was denied to you by your own ignorance. The doors of the temple are open. But remember, the only master here is you. The ritual begins now. Chapter 1. The Law of Hermetic Silence. To know, to will, to dare, to keep silent. The first law of the 33rd degree is the foundation of all genuine power. The law of hermetic silence. The ancient mages condensed the path of the adept into 4 imperative verbs, the 4 pillars of the Sphinx. To know, the comprehension of the law. To will, the force of determination. To dare, the courage of action. To keep silent, the seal of energy. Of these 4, the last is what separates the child from the adult, the apprentice from the master. You can know everything. You can fiercely desire it, and you can dare to pursue it. But if you do not know how to keep silent, your power will evaporate before it ever touches matter. Silence is not modesty. Silence is not timidity. Silence is spiritual thermodynamics. To understand this law, you must stop perceiving words as mere sounds and begin seeing them as discharges of energy. Every thought of creation, a wish, a plan, a vision, generates an electrical charge in your mind. It is steam inside a boiler. The purpose of that internal pressure is to move the piston of reality. The pressure must accumulate until it is so concentrated that it shatters the inertia of matter and manifests the desire. But the mouth is an exhaust valve. The profane feels the pressure of a great idea. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to build wealth. And feels the discomfort of that pressure. Their ego seeks immediate relief. It craves the reward now. So they open their mouth. They reveal their plan to a friend. They broadcast it on social media. They hunt for validation. What a brilliant idea, they are told. Are you truly going to do that? In that instant, the profane feels satisfaction. The brain releases dopamine. They feel as though they have already accomplished it simply because they have spoken it. But energetically, a catastrophe has occurred. They have opened the valve. The steam has escaped. The internal pressure has collapsed to zero. When the moment arrives to work on the book or the business, they feel hollow, fatigued, without momentum. Why? Because they spent the energy of creation on the act of speaking. The 33rd degree master operates under a different physics. They receive the idea. They feel the pressure. They feel the impulse to announce it. And they close the valve. They swallow the words. They refuse to seek external validation. They force that energy to circulate inward, reverberating against the walls of their mind, intensifying and densifying. The pressure ascends to critical levels, and since the energy cannot escape through the mouth, it has no choice but to escape through the hands. It becomes unstoppable action. It becomes matter. Silence converts steam into motion. Why can the profane not keep a secret? Because of the addiction to validation. The profane does not believe in their own existence until another confirms it. This need for external approval is the emblem of slavery. If you require applause, you are a servant of the audience. The sovereign grand inspector, the 33rd state of consciousness, does not seek validation because he is the authority. His silence is a declaration of sovereign certainty. I don't need you to believe in my plan for my plan to be real. My decree is sufficient. Silence also shields your sovereignty. When you reveal your plans, you surrender others the power to offer opinions. You grant them a vote in your mental parliament. I don't think that will work, says one. It's too risky, says another. Those opinions are viruses. They infiltrate your mind and consume your certainty. By maintaining silence, you deny them entry. You keep your vision pure, uncontaminated by the doubts of lesser minds. The temple is constructed behind sealed doors. Only when the work is complete are the doors opened. There is a deeper reason for silence, rooted in quantum physics. We speak of the observer effect. Reality is a wave of probability until it is observed. When you have a project in gestation, it is a fragile embryo, a subtle wave. If you expose that embryo to the observation of envious, skeptical, or mediocre minds, their judgment interferes with your wave. The ancients named this the evil eye. It is not black magic. It is the projection of a destructive or incredulous intention onto a nascent creation. The doubt of others is weight. The envy of others is psychic friction. Why compel your dream to battle the mental resistance of others before it has the strength to defend itself? The law of hermetic silence is a shield of invisibility. If no one knows what you are building, no one can vibrationally sabotage it. You advance in the shadows. You grow in the dark. And by the time the world comprehends what you have accomplished, it is too late to stop you. The tree is already an oak. Living this law in the modern world is an act of psychological warfare. Society is engineered to extract information from you. Social media are public confession machines. Social gatherings are rituals of status exchange where you are expected to lay your cards on the table for judgment. If you refuse to play, if you decline to show your hand, the system becomes agitated. They will label you distant, arrogant, peculiar. This is where the aspirant to the 33rd degree must adopt a new operational identity. They must stop being an open person and become a living enigma. The Egyptian Sphinx stands in plain sight. It is colossal, undeniable, visible to all, but its lips are sealed. It does not explain its purpose. It does not justify its existence. It simply is. That absence of explanation is what generates its power. Millennia later, we remain obsessed with it because mystery is magnetic. When someone asks you what you are doing, what your plans are, your biological instinct, the desire for validation, will want to discharge all the information. In that moment, use calculated ambiguity. Reply with truths that reveal nothing. I'm developing several compelling projects. As always, I'm in an incubation phase. We'll see when it's ready. You don't deceive, but you surrender no key. This response creates a vacuum. The human mind detests a vacuum and will attempt to fill it with projection. They will frequently imagine you are more formidable, more intelligent, and more significant than you actually are, simply because you are not soliciting their approval. Your silence compels them to respect you. Hermetic silence does not only apply to your projects, it applies to your judgments. The profane carries an opinion about everything: politics, the weather, other people's choices. They feel compelled to take sides in every trivial dispute. This is a massive hemorrhage of energy. Every time you argue with someone incapable of understanding you, you are casting pearls before swine. You are lowering your vibration to the level of conflict. The master practices the fasting of opinion. They observe the chaos of the world, the news, the arguments, and they do not participate. They internally repeat the observer's mantra: interesting, but irrelevant to my mission. When you have a burning desire, a vision of a new existence, of wealth and liberation, and you forbid yourself to speak of it, a physical phenomenon occurs within your psyche: pressurization. The idea, unable to exit through the mouth, begins to expand inward. It begins to colonize your subconscious. It begins to alter your physiology. It begins to change your gaze. It begins to magnetize your presence. You become a pressure vessel. You walk down the street feeling as though you carry a sun in your chest. That sensation of wanting to combust is the signal that the energy has reached the critical mass necessary to materialize. If you speak, in that moment, you discharge the pressure and forfeit the miracle. If you sustain it, if you hold that sacred fire without releasing even a spark of words, the pressure will fracture the barrier of reality. The energy will be forced to find a physical outlet. It will become synchronicity. It will become inspired action. It will become opportunity. Silence is also a weapon of hierarchy. In any human interaction, the person who most desperately needs to speak is the one with the lowest perceived status. The one who speaks is seeking approval. The one who listens and remains silent is granting or withholding that approval. When someone challenges you, or when you are in a negotiation, or when someone attempts to manipulate you, do not respond immediately. Use the master's pause. Maintain eye contact. Hold the silence for 3 or 4 complete seconds. That silence is heavy. It is uncomfortable for the other person. In that vacuum, they will feel compelled to justify themselves, to speak more, to reveal their position. They will grow nervous. You remain still. Your silence communicates, "You do not unsettle me. I am not in haste. I am evaluating you." The Master is elitist with their truth. Jesus had 12, but only took 3 to the mountaintop, and only 1 reclined on his chest. Create concentric circles of information. Outer circle, the world. They know nothing. They see your results, not your process. Middle circle, acquaintances, colleagues. They know what is necessary for cooperation. Inner circle, the sanctuary. 1 or 2 people, a partner, a mentor, a kindred spirit, who have proven through time and fire that they are not envious, that they vibrate at your frequency, and that they can sustain your vision. Speaking to a true equal does not dissipate energy, it multiplies it. But if you lack that equal, absolute silence is superior to the wrong company. It is better to burn alone than to be extinguished by the mediocre. The ultimate goal of hermetic silence is to set the stage for the only sound that matters, the roar of achievement. Work in silence and let your success make all the noise. The profane announces what they intend to do. The Master appears with the work complete. No one knew you were writing. Suddenly you have published the definitive work. No one knew you were training. Suddenly you appear transformed. No one knew you were investing. Suddenly you are financially sovereign. That surprise impact generates an aura of mystique. People will attribute your results to luck or innate talent. They don't know the hours of contained pressure, of sealed lips and internal labor. They don't know you are a closed furnace. That mystery is your protection. Chapter 2. the law of order from chaos. Now you face the reality of your current existence, and the probability is that what you observe is disorder. Disorganized debts, fractured schedules, unfulfilled promises, scattered thoughts. Chaos surrounds you. The natural human instinct is to flee chaos or attempt to survive it. But the second law of the 33rd degree offers a radically different perspective, one that distinguishes the rulers from the ruled. Chaos is not a system error. It is the raw material of creation. Ordo ab chao, order from chaos. You must understand what you are truly contending against. You are not fighting demons, nor the economy, nor your adversaries. You are fighting entropy. The second law of thermodynamics states that in a closed system, everything tends toward disorder, cooling, and disintegration, unless intelligent energy is injected to sustain order. If you leave a dwelling unattended, it fills with dust and deteriorates. If you leave a body without exercise, it atrophies. If you leave a mind without discipline, it fills with fear and negativity. Disorder is the natural state of unsupervised matter. Chaos is what manifests when you withdraw your attention. Therefore, if your life is chaos, diagnosis is brutally simple. You have abdicated. You have ceased injecting ordering energy into your system. The profane's error is attempting to order external chaos with a chaotic internal mind. He tries to organize his finances while his mind is consumed with anxiety. He tries to structure his time while his mind cannot concentrate. It is impossible. You cannot erect a straight wall with a crooked level. The law of order dictates that external structure is always a projection of internal geometry. If your desk is a disaster, it is because your mind is a disaster. The physical world is a passive mirror that replicates the architecture of your consciousness. Therefore, the master never begins by ordering the world. He begins by ordering the inner temple. Before attempting to transform your company, you must transform your thinking. Before attempting to repair a relationship, you must repair your relationship with your own emotions. The profane despises routine. He perceives it as confinement. He desires freedom. But in the 33rd degree, we recognize that this so-called freedom is merely slavery to impulses and chance. One who flows without banks ends up as a swamp. The master loves ritual because ritual is the containment wall that prevents entropy from dismantling his life. Getting up at a fixed hour is an act of order. Eating with discipline is an act of order. Reviewing finances weekly is an act of order. These compact structures seem mundane, but they are the foundations of the temple. Structure channels power. A river without banks is a destructive flood. A river with banks is a source of energy capable of illuminating a city. When the profane encounters a problem, he collapses. When the master encounters a problem, chaos, he sees raw material. A problem is simply disorganized energy awaiting a leader. A company in crisis is chaos awaiting a manager with vision. An anxious mind is creative energy awaiting a purpose. Do not fear chaos. Chaos is the quarry from which you extract the stones for your cathedral. The sovereign grand inspector descends into the quarry, examines the broken and deformed stones, and declares, "Perfect. Here is sufficient material to construct a masterpiece." In the symbolism of the 33rd degree, the 24-inch rule represents the 24 hours allocated to every human being, from beggar to emperor. It is the sole democratic resource in the universe. Chaos invades your life because you treat time as a liquid, amorphous substance. You let it spill. The master treats time as solid stone. He carves his day into blocks. The ancients divided the rule into 3 equal sections of 8 hours, 8 for work and mission, 8 for restoration and sleep, 8 for study and noble cultivation. Chaos arises when these boundaries are violated, when you labor 14 hours, when work contaminates family, when distraction pollutes productivity. The master inhabits watertight compartments. When he is in one domain, is totally present there. This focus eliminates the entropy leak, the anxiety of being in one place while thinking of another. Your mind, in its natural state, is chaotic. It leaps from past to future, from fear to desire, from anger to guilt. You cannot construct a straight life with crooked thoughts. Throughout the day, thousands of thoughts will traverse your mind. Most are entropic debris. The master applies the mental square, a practice of auditing thoughts in real time. He asks, "Is this thought aligned with my purpose? Is it constructive? Is it true?" If the thought does not pass this test, if it is victimhood, useless fear, or gossip, the master discards it. He chisels it from his mind. You say, "This thought is debris. It is worthless for construction." After a period of practice, your mind understands that there is an inspector at the gate. Chaotic thoughts arrive less frequently. Your thinking becomes geometric, operating in straight lines. Problem, solution. Desire, action. Error, correction. Space molds consciousness. You cannot sustain a 33rd degree mind while inhabiting a 1st degree environment. If your dwelling is in disorder, if your workspace is cluttered with obsolete papers, your environment is constantly broadcasting chaos at you. Those visual signals of disorder consume your cognitive bandwidth. They exhaust you without your awareness. External entropy feeds internal entropy. Before attempting to transform your life or accumulate a fortune, begin by transforming your space. Declare war on entropy in your immediate environment. Discard what is broken, dead energy. Organize what is scattered. Cleanse what is contaminated. Do it not as a mundane household task. Do it as an exorcism. You are reclaiming your territory from entropy. When you sit at a clean desk in an ordered room, you will perceive an immediate shift in your breathing. Your mind will clear. Physical order acts as a capacitor that accumulates psychic energy. A clean temple attracts clarity. A disordered temple attracts confusion. Chaos frequently manifests as a simultaneous flood of problems: debt, health, relationships, work. Everything appears to explode at once. The profane panics, running in multiple directions without strategy, exhausting himself while resolving nothing. The master applies hierarchy. He classifies before acting. Write down all your problems. Empty your mind onto paper. Now examine them with cold precision. The vital, what, if unaddressed today, will cause systemic collapse, is confronted first with full resources. The important, what constructs the future, is scheduled in prime morning blocks. The trivial, the noise, the opinions of others, false emergencies, is delegated or eliminated. The law of order is the law of sequence, one stone at a time. If you attempt to place the roof before the foundation, the structure collapses. Your body is the lodge where your spirit operates. Biological chaos, inflammation, weakness, toxic accumulation prevents the ritual from being performed with excellence. The master imposes order on his flesh, not for vanity, but for functionality. He practices voluntary restriction. He understands that excess in food, substances, and sensory indulgence generates entropy in the body. He imposes biological rhythms, eating at fixed intervals, sleeping at consistent hours, training the body not to appear impressive, but to sustain the high voltage of his mind. When you order your body, you transmit a commanding signal to your subconscious. I am sovereign here. Matter obeys me. If you cannot govern what you consume, you cannot govern an empire. Disorder also manifests as incompletion, half-finished projects, unfulfilled commitments, unresolved conversations. Everything you initiate and do not complete is an open loop in your mind, an energy drain, a program running in the background that slows your entire processor. The master is a finisher. His obsession is not starting things. It is completing them. If you withdraw a book, you read it or you shelve it, but you do not leave it on the table for months. If you have a difficult pending conversation, you have it today. The act of closing cycles releases enormous, trapped psychic energy. It clears the mental RAM. It returns you to the present. Look at your life today. What is half finished? Finish it or eliminate it, but do not continue carrying it. Order is the art of placing the final period. Drop the number 33 in the comments right now if you understand that 33 is not a rank given by any man, but a state of mind you claim for yourself. Let this community witness the moment you stepped into your own sovereignty. Chapter 3. The Law of the Mosaic Pavement. The Mastery of Duality. The black and white tiled floor of the temple is not an aesthetic decoration. It is the fundamental map of physical reality. The third law of the 33rd degree declares, the universe is sustained by the tension of opposites. Good and evil, light and darkness, pleasure and pain are not warring enemies. They are the 2 feet with which creation walks. The profane exists in the illusion of monochrome. He desires a life of only light, only pleasure, only gain. He spends his existence fleeing the black tile, pain, failure, loss, and desperately pursuing the white tile. This flight transforms him into a coward and a slave. Because if you flee from the darkness pursues you, and if you cling to the light blinds you. The master does not flee. The master does not grasp. The master walks. And to walk, he understands that he needs one foot on the white and the other on the black. You have been indoctrinated by a childish spirituality that instructs you, be positive, disregard the darkness, only light and love. That is poison for the initiate. A life of only light is a life without contrast. It is a sheet of white paper, flat, without depth, without history. If you eliminate resistance, the black, you eliminate force. Look at your body. Your muscles only develop when they encounter resistance, gravity, weights. Look at your mind. Your intelligence only sharpens when it confronts difficult problems. The black tile is not a divine mistake. It is the whetstone. The man who has never suffered is superficial. The man who has never failed is fragile. The obsession with perpetual happiness has generated a weak civilization incapable of enduring the slightest pressure. The master respects the black tile. He understands that in the darkness of the womb, in the darkness of the earth, and in the darkness of challenge, power is gestated. On the other hand, there exists the trap of cynicism and victimization. There are those who fall in love with the black tile. They identify with their pain. They clothe themselves in their trauma. They believe the world is a malevolent place, and that suffering is the only profound truth. This is equally an error. It is standing motionless on the black and refusing to advance toward the white. The mosaic pavement teaches you that darkness is a place of passage, not of residence. It is necessary to step upon the black to propel oneself toward the white. But if you linger on the black, you decay. Depression is a static fixation on darkness. Mania is a static fixation on light. Mastery is movement. So what is the revelation? If we must neither reject the black nor cling to the white, what do? We ascend. The pavement is on the ground, the horizontal plane. The master stands vertical, the vertical axis. The law of the 33rd degree teaches you to locate the third position. You are not the light. You are not the darkness. You are the consciousness that experiences both. Imagine walking across that floor. To your right, you receive a compliment, white. To your left, you receive an insult, black. The profane is inflated by the compliment and demolished by the insult. He is a puppet of duality. The master receives the compliment and says, "Thank you, that is a white tile." He receives the insult and says, "Thank you, that is a black tile." And he continues walking. He permits neither to alter his internal temperature. He sustains his equanimity. This capacity to contain the opposites without fracturing is the definition of integrity. Integrity derives from entire. To be whole, you must integrate your light and your shadow. To walk, you require friction. If the floor were perfectly smooth, only positive without resistance, you would slip. You could not advance. You need the roughness of the black tile to gain traction. Your adversaries, your crises, your fears are the necessary friction for your progression. The master does not request that the stones be cleared from the path. He uses the stones to construct the staircase. He blesses his enemy because the enemy defines him. He blesses his obstacle because the obstacle strengthens him. Without the night, you could not perceive the stars. Most aspirants to the light commit a fatal error. They attempt to amputate their own darkness. They believe that to be spiritual or noble, they must eliminate their rage, their ambition, their desire, their pride, their self-interest. They spend years suppressing these forces, driving them into the basement of their subconscious. They become pleasant, agreeable, passive, and profoundly weak. They have fashioned a mask of light while rotting beneath it. Because the energy you repress does not vanish, it becomes toxic. It transforms into the demon that strikes from below. The law of the 33rd degree is unambiguous. You do not extinguish the beast. You ride it. The master is not a man without a shadow. The master is a man who has projected a light so powerful that his shadow is sharp, and he holds it bound with a golden chain, walking at his side like a guardian. The 33rd degree demands that you retrieve your power lost in the darkness. Consider the physics of repression. Imagine that your shadow, your dark impulses, is a beach ball. Society, your upbringing, and your conditioning have told you that ball is dangerous, that you must not display it. So you spend your existence attempting to keep the ball submerged beneath the water of your consciousness. This requires constant expenditure of energy, a hand perpetually occupied pushing down. That energy you spend on suppression is energy you are not using to construct your temple. You are exhausted not by what you do, but by what you conceal. And the worst, if you become distracted for a moment, the ball detonates upward with explosive force. The composed, quiet man who one day erupts in volcanic rage. The repressed individual who, when granted authority, becomes a tyrant. Repression creates pressure, and pressure without channeling creates explosion. The master ceases pushing the ball down. He withdraws it from the water. He examines it and asks, "What is this for?" He discovers that the ball is not a monster. It is compressed vitality. The shadow is not malevolent. It is unrefined power. There are three great dark forces that humanity has demonized, and which are, in reality, the engines of greatness, if refined. Anger, in its pure state, is the force of the limit. It is the energy that says no. It is the energy that protects what is sacred. If you are incapable of feeling anger, you are incapable of defending yourself or those you love. The master takes anger and transmutes it into determination and justice, not to incinerate his dwelling, but to forge the steel of his character. Ambition, the hunger for expansion, is the impulse of life desiring to be more. The universe is in constant expansion. Greed is simply the distorted, fearful version of aspiration. The master takes that ravenous hunger and transmutes it into excellence, using the desire to have more, to be more, to construct empires that serve others. Pride, purified, becomes dignity. It is the internal recognition of your sovereign worth. If you lack pride, you sell yourself short. You accept mediocre arrangements. You tolerate disrespect. The master takes pride and transforms it into standard. I am not doing this because I am superior to you. I am doing this because I maintain a standard of excellence that prevents me from doing less. A harmless man is not a virtuous man. A harmless man is a man who cannot cause harm, and therefore his goodness is not a choice. It is a deficiency of capacity. The rabbit is not virtuous because it does not consume the wolf. It is simply weak. The true master must be capable of force, of chaos, of decisive power. He must possess sharp faculties, and then, having all that lethal capacity under his command, he chooses peace. He chooses compassion. That is genuine virtue. Virtue is controlled power. The 33rd degree demands that you recover your capacity for strength, not to wield it against the innocent, but so that when authentic adversity presents itself, you possess the means to confront it. When you integrate your shadow, a profound social transformation occurs. You cease judging. What disturbs you in others is invariably, without exception, a reflection of your own unrecognized shadow. If arrogance irritates you, it is because you have suppressed your own pride. If laziness irritates you, it is because you do not permit yourself to rest. When you accept your own darkness, when you acknowledge, yes, I am also capable of this, judgment dissolves. It is supplanted by comprehension. You perceive the struggling person, and you see not a foreign monster, but a part of yourself that has lost its compass. This immunity to judgment makes you a magnetic leader. People feel secure with you because they sense you are not threatened by their darkness, since you are not threatened by your own. Leave the number 11 below. If you have recognized in yourself a force you were taught to suppress, and you are now ready to transmute it into your greatest power. 11 is the number of revelation, the awakening of the hidden self. Let this community witness your integration. Chapter 4. The Law of the Square and Compasses, Matter and Spirit. To the uninitiated world, they are instruments of masonry. To the initiate of the 33rd degree, they are the control mechanisms of reality. The fourth law states, mastery is neither the flight from the material world toward the spiritual, nor the immersion in matter while forgetting spirit. Mastery is the precise geometric intersection where the square of matter is directed by the compasses of the spirit. The square is a fixed angle of 90 degrees. It cannot be opened or closed. It is rigid. It is static. It represents matter, the earth, physical law, the rectitude of action, the limitation of form. The profane exists under the tyranny of the square. His life is defined exclusively by material constraints. I cannot accomplish this because I lack the resources. Reality is only what I can touch and measure. Living under the square is living in the box, accepting that the laws of society, economics, and biology are the sole dictators of your destiny. The square is essential. We require realism. We need solid ground beneath our feet. But if it is your only instrument, you are a prisoner of form. Now examine the second instrument, the compasses. It is mobile. It has a fixed point, the center, and an arm that moves. It traces circles, and the circle is the symbol of the infinite, of heaven, of the spirit. The compasses represent the elevated mind, intuition, and vision. The dreamer operates under the tyranny of the compasses. He inhabits the clouds. He has grand ideas, intense emotions, profound spiritual connections, but he lacks ground. His ideas never land. His projects never materialize. He is the mystic who cannot sustain himself financially. He is the artist who never completes his work. He possesses abundant spirit, but lacks the structure, the square, to contain it. Here lies the revelation concealed within the degrees of masonry. The secret is not in the instruments themselves, but in their relative position. At the level of the apprentice, matter dominates spirit. The square is placed over the compasses. Your circumstances dictate your emotional state. If you lose resources, you collapse. If you encounter illness, you suffer. The spirit exists, but it is buried beneath the weight of material facts. You are trapped in density. This is the posture of the victim. At the level of the fellowcraft, the conflict, one point of the compasses is freed. You have awakened. You know you are a spiritual being, but matter still strikes you forcefully. You have moments of faith and moments of fear. You are engaged in the battle between your vision and your current reality. It is the painful, necessary state of transition. At the 33rd degree, the master, the position shifts entirely. The compasses are positioned completely above the square. The spirit reigns over matter. This does not mean matter vanishes. The square remains present. You still inhabit a body. You still meet financial obligations. But the compasses are elevated. Your vision dictates your reality. Your emotional state does not depend on your circumstances. Your circumstances are molded by your inner state. The master uses matter, but is not consumed by it. He walks upon the earth, but his consciousness touches the infinite. The compasses serve a technical function that is vital for the initiate, drawing boundaries. The ritual declares that the compasses serve to circumscribe our desires and keep our passions within due bounds. This is not moral restriction. It is energetic engineering. The human spirit is a wildfire. Passions, rage, desire, ambition, fear are expansive energies that, if left uncontrolled, incinerate the system. The master employs the compasses of his will to trace a circle of command around his passions. He does not suppress them, that would extinguish them. He circumscribes them. He establishes a threshold. My ambition may extend this far, but it will not transgress into tyranny. My pleasure may extend this far, but it will not transgress into addiction. By circumscribing the energy, you intensify the pressure. An overflowing river is a swamp. A river with banks moves turbines. The compasses transform raw emotion into directed power. Without the compasses, your spiritual energy scatters into chaos. With the compasses, it becomes a laser. The master simultaneously employs the square to rectify his actions. Before acting in the physical world, he applies the square to
every intended move. Is this aligned with my purpose? Is it fair to both parties? Will it sustain the weight of time? Rectitude is not merely being good. It is structural alignment. If you construct a crooked wall through dishonest actions, through deceptions and shortcuts, gravity, the law of cause and effect, will dismantle it. The master ensures that every brick he places in his life is at a perfect 90-degree angle. A falsehood is an obtuse angle. It weakens the structure. The truth is a right angle. It sustains infinite weight. Before entering the world each day, the master calibrates his instruments. Before his feet contact the floor, he anchors the needle of his compasses. He defines his circle of influence. Today, I will not permit anything unworthy to enter my field. He applies the square to his schedule. Are these actions aligned? Are they necessary? Are they structured correctly? If there is any crooked commitment, any waste of time, any false obligation, he eliminates it. Only when the compasses and the square are calibrated does the master engage the world. And when he does, he is not a victim of circumstances. He is a geometer. He perceives the world not as drama, but as shapes and structures requiring his precision. Rectitude is absent here. I will provide it. Vision is lacking there. I will supply it. There is imbalance. I will center it. He orders the world as he moves through it, not through effort, but through the simple application of his internal geometry. Chapter 5. The Pen of Fire. The Creative Word. The central legend of Masonry recounts the death of the grand architect Hiram Abiff. It is said he possessed the master word, the sonic secret that permitted builders to raise the temple effortlessly, defying gravity. When Hiram was destroyed, the word was lost. Since then, humanity has been operating with substitute words. Look at yourself. You speak continuously. You emit sounds. You declare, I want this. I will do that. I promise such and such. But your words carry no weight. They collapse to the ground the instant they depart your mouth. You say you will transform your health, and you don't. You say you will succeed, and you don't genuinely believe it. The universe has ceased listening to you. To physical reality, your voice is simply background noise. The fifth law of the 33rd degree is the recovery of divine phonetics. The word is not a vehicle for communication.
It is a vehicle for creation. But it only creates when the vibration of the sound precisely matches the vibration of the will. The profane speaks. The master decrees. Modern physics confirms that matter is simply energy vibrating at a slow frequency, and sound is the organizer of vibration. The science of cymatics demonstrates that sound possesses the capacity to organize matter. A specific frequency causes sand to instantly arrange itself into precise geometric configurations. If you alter the frequency, the geometry transforms. Your reality is that sand. Your voice is the instrument. The problem is that your instrument is misaligned. Your mouth declares, "I am abundant." Your emotion screams, "I am afraid." Your body vibrates, "I do not believe this." This fragmented signal produces a blurred geometry. The sand of your life does not know what configuration to assume, so it remains in chaos. The lost word is not a secret incantation in a dead language. The lost word is any word spoken with total vibrational integrity, when what you think, what you feel, and what you declare are a single unified frequency. When you achieve that alignment, the word becomes solid. It becomes law. We inhabit the age of word inflation. We talk excessively. We make commitments we don't honor. We exaggerate. We speak falsehoods for convenience. Every time you employ your voice for something that is not truth, you are devaluing your currency. Imagine your voice is a financial institution. Every time you say, "I will do this," and you don't, you are issuing a fraudulent transaction. The universe and your own subconscious maintains the ledger. Initially, the universe accepts you, but after thousands of dishonored commitments, your spiritual credit reaches zero. Your subconscious categorizes you as unreliable. Now, when you attempt to decree, "I will achieve abundance," your subconscious examines your history and dismisses it. This is the same consciousness that committed to transformation on Monday and did nothing. Its word is valueless. The recovery of the lost word begins with an honest audit of your language. You must restore your credit. How? Through scarcity. If gold were as abundant as gravel, it would be worthless. If you speak incessantly, your word is worthless. The 33rd degree master practices verbal economy. He speaks rarely, but when he speaks, the foundation of reality trembles. The profane employs the word to describe reality. He surveys his circumstances and narrates them. Things are difficult. Resources are scarce. I am struggling. He believes he is speaking truth. In reality, he is functioning as a notary of the past, signing and sealing the continuation of what already exists. By describing scarcity, he decrees it anew. The master employs the word to prescribe reality. He does not use his voice to report conditions. He uses it to alter them. He surveys the empty account, but his voice declares, "My supply is infinite." He surveys the conflict, but his voice commands, "Peace." This demands supreme audacity, the capacity to speak to the law rather than to the facts. Facts are malleable. The creative word imposes a new form upon them. When Jesus commanded the storm, "Silence, be still," he was not describing the storm, he was prescribing the calm. Authority does not describe, it commands. The first error that extinguishes the pen of fire is the use of the future tense. Listen to your internal discourse. I will be prosperous. I will heal. I will discover love. Grammatically, these appear to be declarations. Metaphysically, they are condemnations. The quantum field has no calendar. It has no tomorrow. It exists only in an eternal, pulsating now. When you say, "I will be," you are transmitting an instruction that declares, "Preserve this in the future. Never deliver it to the present. Keep it always one step beyond my reach." To inscribe upon the tablets of destiny, you must violate the rules of conventional logic and adopt divine logic. You must speak of what does not yet physically exist as though it already does. The decree must be in the present indicative. Not "I will be healthy," but "I am perfect health." And here is the advanced key: eliminate negation. The subconscious does not process the word no. If you declare, "I don't want debt," the subconscious receives the image and frequency of debt and delivers more of it. The decree must always be affirmative. Instead of, "I don't want to struggle," decree, "I am sustained by abundance." The Master's decree carries 3 components: the invocation of presence, I am; the absolute quality, power, clarity, wealth, health; the time closure, here and now. This is the nuclear formula. I am is not a description. It is an identification. When you declare, "I am," your subconscious opens the file of your identity and prepares to rewrite it. The only phrases that should follow "I am" are those you wish to manifest. It is not solely what you declare. It is from where you declare it. The Master's voice originates from the center of gravity, the core, the belly. Before issuing an important decree, lower your consciousness to your center. Inhale deeply. As you speak, visualize the sound rising from your feet, ascending through your belly, and emerging from your mouth with gravitational weight. When you speak with physical resonance, you are unifying your biological body with your mental intention. You are aligning the square and the compasses in a single act of creation. Once you begin practicing integrity and power accumulation, your word becomes radioactive. The Master employs the word exclusively to bless, to confer growth energy. Bless your resources. Bless your adversaries. It neutralizes their power over you. When you become a consistent source of blessing, you become a vortex of generative energy. And once you have issued a command of authority, you must fall into silence. The silence following the decree is the sealing wax that protects it. Do not discuss the decree. Do not monitor whether it is manifesting. Let the pressure construct the miracle. The supreme use of the recovered word is self-definition. You are the only being in your universe with the power to name yourself. Cease accepting the labels the uninitiated assigned to you. In the intimacy of your inner temple, define who you are. I am unbreakable will. I am the source of abundance. Repeat this definition until it is engraved in your bones. When you know who you are, and you declare it with the voice of certainty and the integrity of tested steel, the world will have no option but to align with your declaration. Reality always ultimately validates the one who validates themselves with absolute conviction. Write 144 in the comments. 144 is the number of chosen masters in sacred geometry, the frequency of collective awakening. If these laws of silence, order, and the creative word have begun rewiring the way you speak, think, and operate, place your 144 here. Let this community of sovereign minds know you have heard the call. Chapter 6. The Law of the Phoenix. The Death of the Ego. In the ancient mysteries, before the initiate could perceive the light, he was required to pass through the tomb. In Masonry, this is represented by the chamber of reflection. In alchemy, it is the phase of nigredo, putrefaction. In mythology, it is the phoenix igniting itself. All these symbols point to one brutal technical truth. You cannot enter the 33rd degree as who you are now. Your current self, your name, your history, your traumas, your pride, your social identity, is too dense to ascend. It is lead, and lead does not fly. The sixth law establishes the condition of ascent. New life does not superimpose itself upon the old. It rises from its ashes. For the sovereign to be born, the commoner must burn. The death of the ego is not the termination of the journey. It is the entrance toll. To comprehend why you must dissolve, observe a seed. As long as the seed remains intact, hard and protected within its shell, it is an inert object. Potentially, it is an entire forest. Currently, it is a small stone. For the tree to emerge, the seed must self-destruct. The original form must cease to exist for the inner life to be liberated. Your ego is that shell. It is a defensive architecture you constructed in childhood to endure the chaos of the world. It is composed of fears, defense mechanisms, and social masks. It protected you when you were vulnerable. But now that you seek genuine power, that protection has become your prison. The ego declares, I am my achievements. I am my suffering. I am my reputation. I am my body. The master declares, I am that I am. The conflict intensifies when you attempt to expand, to grow the tree without fracturing the shell. You experience unbearable internal pressure. It is spiritual anxiety. It is your greatness attempting to rupture your smallness. Most people employ distractions to numb that pressure. The initiate accepts it and assists in shattering the shell. He voluntarily steps into the fire. The alchemist's great work was never about physical metals. It was a codification of human transformation. Lead represents the heavy, dense, opaque ego. It absorbs light but does not radiate it. It is the state of being anchored to the earth, to the past, to resentment, to matter. Gold represents the spirit, the solar self, radiant, incorruptible, a perfect conductor of divine energy. You cannot refine lead until it becomes gold. You cannot enhance the ego until it has become spirit. You must subject the lead to intense fire until its structure fundamentally changes. What is this fire in lived experience? It is the humiliation of the ego. It is the dissolution of illusions. It is the moment life removes what you believed you were to reveal what you truly are. The profane flees the fire. He avoids failure, evades criticism, escapes loss. The master advances toward the fire. He understands that everything combustible must combust, because the only substance that does not burn is the gold. The truth. If you fear losing your reputation, it is because your reputation is constructed of straw. Burn it. If you fear losing your financial standing, it is because your security is constructed of paper. Burn it. What survives the fire will be indestructible. The process of the ego's death feels literally like dying. Your nervous system panics. Your mind screams, "If I cease being this identity, I will cease to exist. I will become nothing." This is the terror of the void. It is the guardian of the threshold. It is the moment of falling from the trapeze. You have released the old bar, but you have not yet grasped the new one. You are suspended in space, without identity or support. Most people cannot endure this void. They retreat to their former identities, their familiar dramas, their habitual patterns, simply to be someone, even if that someone is suffering. The law of the phoenix demands that you sustain your gaze into the void without panic. It is in that emptiness, that state of "I do not know who I am," that infinite possibility resides. Only when you are no one can you become anyone. The void is not death. It is the womb of resurrection. The ego operates through force and resistance. I must control this. I must defend myself. I must be correct. The phoenix operates through surrender, not the surrender of the defeated, but the surrender of one who recognizes the fire as an ally. It is the declaration, "I renounce my need to be right. I renounce my need to dictate the how. I surrender to the higher law." When the ego surrenders, it ceases consuming energy in defense. All the massive energy previously spent sustaining your masks and walls is suddenly liberated. That burst of released energy is what propels you upward. It is the phoenix propulsion. The first protocol for dismantling the false identity is linguistic and cognitive dissociation. You must begin perceiving your personality, your name, your history, your emotional reactions, not as you, but as an avatar you are managing. Imagine you are engaged in a complex simulation. The character on the screen is being challenged. The character is losing life. The player holding the controller is not bleeding. The player observes. When you experience a surge of anger, fear, or pain, stop. Do not declare, "I have fear." Instead, the avatar is experiencing a fear response. Do not declare, "I was insulted." Instead, the avatar received a negative stimulus. This appears to be a semantic adjustment, but it is a neurological firewall. By shifting the language, you relocate from the center of the storm to the elevated position from which the storm is observed. You become the witness. The witness is the spirit. The avatar is the ego. The fire can only consume the avatar. The witness is the fire itself. Julius Caesar composed his memoirs speaking of himself in the third person throughout. It was not merely a literary convention. It was a psychology of command. By perceiving himself as an external historical force, Caesar could execute cold, precise decisions without personal fear corrupting the process. When you are in the midst of a crisis, begin narrating your situation in the third person. Instead of, "What am I going to do? I am lost." Think, "This person is navigating a financial challenge. What is the most effective move available?" By speaking of yourself in the third person, you deactivate the amygdala, the fear center. You activate the prefrontal cortex, the strategy center. You withdraw the emotional weight from the circumstance. The ego feeds on me, mine, I. Remove the first person and you remove the fuel. The crisis dries up. You transform from victim of your life into strategist of your life. The ego's primary sustenance is personal importance, the delusional conviction that you are the center of all events, that what others do to you is inherently personal, that the world owes you specific treatment. Personal importance makes you dense. It makes you fragile. You are a fine crystal cup. Any collision shatters you. The phoenix must incinerate its importance. The master actively seeks situations that challenge his ego, to practice non-defense. When someone criticizes you, judges you, or verbally attacks you, your instinct will demand retaliation. The Phoenix Protocol demands that you remain silent. Do not defend yourself. Do not justify yourself. Let the challenge arrive. Feel it ignite. Feel your ego writhe, and let it burn. That burning is not genuine harm. It is personal importance evaporating. Tell yourself, "If I am not this ego, then this attack is striking nothing real. It is striking an empty image. Let the image fracture." When you learn to absorb a blow to the ego without reacting, you become genuinely untouchable. You recognize that your real dignity, your gold, cannot be disturbed by the words of others. Only your vanity, your lead, can be wounded. Do not wait for life to deliver you a catastrophic event to dissolve the ego. Practice the daily death, small acts of voluntary renunciation that weaken the shell. Yield the floor in a trivial disagreement when you know you are correct. Observe how your ego protests. Smile and let it diminish. You have gained something far more valuable than being right. Command over your need to be right. Perform something genuinely valuable and ensure no one discovers it was you. The ego craves recognition. Deny it the applause, and it starves. Occasionally take the position of student in your own area of expertise. Break the crystallization of your status. These micro-dissolutions keep you flexible and prepared for the genuine phoenix fire, the great transformation when it arrives. When you have burned sufficient layers of false identity, you will reach the 0 point, the moment you no longer recognize who you are. Your former associations may not recognize you. Your former motivations evaporate. You examine yourself and encounter a stranger. There is an immense void in your chest. The profane identifies this as an existential crisis and seeks remedies to restore the familiar self. The initiate recognizes this void as the resurrection chamber. Do not flee from the void. Inhabit it. That emptiness is not nothing. It is pure potentiality. It is the space you have prepared for universal intelligence to enter. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you have emptied your vessel of the stale contents of your past, the universe is compelled to fill it with something new. In the 0 point, you are genuinely liberated. Since you are no one, you can become anyone. You have erased the outdated history. You are a blank page awaiting the decree of the 33rd degree. From the ashes, something rises. It is not the former you, improved. It is an entirely new entity. It feels liberated from the weight of others' opinions. It feels composed, no longer reacting with emotional heat to provocations. It maintains a stable internal temperature. It feels sovereign, no longer requesting permission to exist. This new identity is not founded on ego separation, but on being connection. The ego declares, "I am superior." The sovereign declares, "I am unique, and you are unique, and we are both expressions of the same source." The ego competes. The sovereign creates. The ego needs to acquire. The sovereign needs to contribute. Once you have been reborn, you return to the world. You employ a name, a function, a personality once more. But now a fundamental distinction exists. Previously, the mask was adhered to your face. You were enslaved to the character. Now you hold the mask in your hand. You know that your social role is a function you perform. You perform it with excellence, passion, and artistry. But you know it is not your essential self. You can don the warrior mask when combat is required, the connector mask when relationship is needed, the teacher's mask when wisdom must be transmitted. You possess access to the entire wardrobe of human expression. Your identity is fluid. This is the ultimate liberation. Nothing can define you because you define yourself in every moment. Chapter 7. The Law of the Pelican. The Sacrifice of Power. If you seal a vessel and continue injecting energy into it, it will eventually rupture. Energy that does not circulate stagnates. Water that does not flow becomes toxic. Blood that does not move coagulates and destroys the body. The profane pursues power to possess it. The master pursues power to transmit it, not from moral sentiment, but from mechanical necessity. To receive more, he must continuously empty himself. The seventh law of the 33rd degree declares, power is not possessed, it is channeled. The only way to sustain authority over energy is by releasing it. To understand this law, you must transform your mental model of wealth and power. The ego's model is the reservoir. Accumulate, retain, protect, close the valve. A reservoir has a ceiling. Once full, it cannot receive one additional drop. It becomes static. And in the universe, static is death. The master's model is the pipeline. The master does not desire to retain the water. He desires the water to flow through him with the greatest possible pressure and volume. He is indifferent to whether the water remains. He is devoted to the flow. He understands that as long as he is an open and unobstructed channel, the infinite ocean is behind him, pushing. He will never run dry, because he is connected to the source. Sacred geography provides the perfect illustration. There are two bodies of water fed by the same river in the same region. The first receives the river's water and releases it outward. It is alive, full of vitality, abundance, and biological richness, because it gives what it receives. The second receives the identical water, but retains everything. It has no outlet. It holds every drop. As a result, the water evaporates. The minerals concentrate. Nothing can survive there. It is one of the most inhospitable bodies of water on the planet. You are one of these two bodies. If you receive knowledge, resources, and care, but do not circulate them, you become the second, heavy, concentrated, and ultimately toxic to yourself and others. Here we must cleanse the concept of sacrifice. Religion has corrupted it into a narrative of painful loss. The Masonic sacrifice is energetic investment. The pelican opens its chest not because it despises its own vitality, but because it understands that by giving its essential energy, it ensures the continuation of life in its lineage. The master gives not to have less, but to create space for more. He comprehends the physics of the vacuum. If you circulate resources generously, you create a low-pressure void in your system. The universe, by physical law, rushes in to fill that void, and invariably fills it with more than previously existed, because the returning current arrives with a momentum of movement. The one who retains blocks the vacuum. There is no room for anything new. The one who circulates continuously empties himself, and is therefore continuously replenished by a fresh current. In the profane world, the king is the one served by all. He occupies the summit of the pyramid, extracting energy from the base. In the 33rd degree, the pyramid is inverted. The genuine king is the foundation. He is the one who sustains all others, the one who serves the most people, who resolves the most problems, who nourishes the most lives, physically or spiritually, is the one commanding the most authentic power. But here we encounter the moral trap that has destroyed thousands of aspirants to mastery: martyrdom. The world is populated with generous individuals who surrender everything they possess, allow themselves to be depleted, tolerate being disregarded, and arrive at bitterness, poverty, and deteriorated health, unable to understand why their sacrifice was not rewarded. They confused being the pelican with slow self-destruction. The law of the 33rd degree makes a surgical distinction. The martyr gives from his insufficiency and expects to be rescued. The sovereign gives from his surplus and recognizes himself as the source. The martyr gives to purchase affection. The sovereign gives to establish order and generate flow. The first commandment of the pelican is paradoxically sacred. Tend to yourself first. To nourish others with your energy and your resources, you must first possess energy and resources to spare. You cannot transmit what you do not carry. If you attempt to give when you are depleted, you are not transmitting light. You are transmitting resentment. And the universe evaluates the vibration, not the surface action. Visualize your life as a sacred vessel. Divine energy, clarity, vitality, abundance, love, enters from above. Your primary obligation is to fill that vessel to its capacity. What fills the interior of the vessel is yours. It is sacred. But when the vessel is filled and the surplus begins to overflow the edges, that overflow belongs to the world. The pelican feeds itself before feeding others, not from selfishness, but from the understanding that a depleted source cannot sustain a kingdom. Once your vessel is secured, establish a system of continuous flow. The ancients designated this the tithe, not a religious tribute extracted through fear, but a vacuum technology. If your mental landscape is crowded with obsolete conceptions, there is no room for revelation. If your environment is saturated with stagnant energy, there is no room for the new. The voluntary act of releasing a portion of your resources, material, temporal, intellectual, deliberately creates a low-pressure void in your system. The universe fills that void, and the returning current consistently delivers more than the original volume, because it arrives with the momentum of movement. The master gives, not expecting the recipient to return the gift. That is commerce, and it operates at a diminished frequency. The master gives to the river, understanding that what he releases upstream will be returned to him downstream, perhaps through an entirely different channel, perhaps through an unexpected source. He trusts the system, not the individual transaction. There is an advanced dimension to generosity, the anonymous gift. The ego desires recognition. When it gives, it demands gratitude. It requires a public acknowledgement. Look at what I have contributed. That desire for recognition is an energy leak. You are trading your spiritual momentum for a minimal payment of social validation. The transaction closes there. You gave, you received acknowledgement. Complete. No genuine power accumulation. When you give without anyone knowing it was you, when you perform the act and dissolve into the background, the energy does not discharge socially.
The circle does not close on the surface. The energy of that generous act remains within your system, seeking an outlet. It generates positive karmic pressure. The universe carries a debt to you, and since the universe cannot repay you with applause, because no one is aware it was you, it repays you through synchronicity, through aligned opportunity, through what appears to others as exceptional fortune. The anonymous gift is the highest yield investment available. You are accumulating a treasure in the quantum field of cause and effect. A final and vital component of the law of sacrifice is discernment. The master is not an open valve releasing his energy into arid ground. He is a directed channel. There exist individuals and situations that function as black holes. No quantity of energy given is sufficient. They do not employ what you offer for growth. They employ it to sustain their dysfunction. Giving resources to someone incapable of containing them is not charity. It is a misallocation of sacred energy. The master evaluates the vessel before pouring. He asks, will this person use what I offer to ascend or to descend further? If the vessel is fractured, the master closes the valve, not from cruelty, but from respect for the energy itself. Energy must flow where it generates life. Seek fertile ground. Seek those who, with minimal guidance, ignite completely and illuminate everything around them. The supreme form of giving is not material. It is the transmission of comprehension, your map through terrain you have already traversed. This is why every master eventually becomes a mentor to others, not from vanity, but from the biology of the spirit. You only truly retain what you transmit. If you acquire a truth and preserve it exclusively for yourself, it stagnates and fades. If you acquire a truth and transmit it to another, you must structure it, understand it at a deeper level, and live it as demonstration. Through teaching, you engrave the understanding into your own foundation. What does the master ultimately do with his own suffering, with the wounds that marked his formation? The profane conceals his wounds or employs them to request sympathy. The master transmutes them into wisdom and offers them as medicine. I traversed this darkness and discovered the passage through it. Here is the map. When you do this, your pain acquires meaning. Suffering ceases to be a sterile tragedy and becomes the price you paid for understanding that now serves others. The pelican employs its own wound to sustain life. Your history of endurance is the most nourishing offering you can provide to a humanity starving for authentic hope. Leave the number 888 in the comments. 888 in sacred numerology is the frequency of infinite abundance, the master number of circulation and flow. If these laws of the pelican and the phoenix have shifted something fundamental in how you perceive giving, power, and your own capacity for sovereign sacrifice, place your 888 here. This community of initiates is witnessing your transformation in real time. Chapter 8. The Law of Sovereignty. The Inner Throne.
Throughout your existence, you have been in motion, running, striving, pleading at the gates of your own palace, requesting that life grant you a fragment of fortune, a measure of affection, a portion of health. You have conducted yourself as a pretender to the throne, perpetually awaiting the moment of your coronation. You have waited for permission from your parents, your superiors, the economy, your companions. The eighth law dissolves this pattern permanently. It is the law of legitimacy. The universe does not respond to need, it responds to rank. Reality is a court that obeys only the one who occupies the throne. No one will crown you but yourself. Sovereignty is not conferred, it is assumed. You were born a sovereign. A newborn does not request permission to cry, to nourish itself, or to exist. It is the center of its universe. It carries its own gravitational field. But as you developed, you were systematically taught to abdicate. You were conditioned to believe that your worth was contingent upon your performance, not upon your being. You were taught that authority was external, residing in teachers, institutions, and distant deities. Gradually, you descended from the throne. You left the seat vacant and went to inhabit the lower chambers of your own mind. What occurs when the throne is unoccupied? Usurpation. When there is no conscious sovereign at the center of your psyche, the lesser forces seize command. Fear occupies the throne and dictates your foreign policy. Isolation. Anger occupies the throne and establishes your laws. Conflict. Scarcity occupies the throne and governs your economy. Poverty. Your inner kingdom exists in chaos, not because you are flawed, but because there is a power vacuum. Chaos is simply the absence of the sovereign. Consider the physics rather than the politics. Sovereignty is a vibrational mass. In the solar system, the sun does not struggle for the planets to orbit around it. It does not compete. It does not manipulate. The sun simply possesses sufficient mass, sufficient gravity, that the surrounding bodies have no physical alternative but to revolve in alignment with its center. The 33rd degree master becomes a sun. He develops such a density of presence, such certainty in his own identity, that circumstances are compelled to orbit his will. The profane is an asteroid, lightweight, without center, deflected by any passing gravitational field. If the economy deteriorates, the profane is destabilized. If someone delivers an insult, the profane collapses. He is a satellite of circumstances. The sovereign is the center of gravity. If the economy deteriorates, the sovereign constructs his own economic reality. If someone delivers an insult, it burns upon entering his atmosphere. He does not react, he emits. The distinguishing characteristic of the sovereign is that he never solicits permission to exist or to flourish. Examine your mind. How frequently each day do you seek psychological authorization? Is it acceptable for me to take this time for myself? Will others accept me if I am genuinely myself? Do I merit this level of abundance? Each of these inquiries is an abdication. You are seeking external authority to to validate your own being. The sovereign operates under the decree of origin. He recognizes that his desire is the only justification he requires. He does not say, "Please, universe, grant me this." He declares, "I choose this, and because I am the cause, the universe is the effect." How is the throne reclaimed? It is not an external achievement. It is an inner posture. You must learn to be seated. Metaphysically, standing or running implies that you are still pursuing something, that you have not yet arrived. Being seated is the act of supreme authority. The sovereign sits while others stand. Sitting implies, "I have already arrived. I am not in haste. I am not afraid. I am in my proper place." The practice of sovereignty is the practice of resting within your own authority. Cease pursuing resources, recognition, and approval. Sit in your center. Trust that your gravitational field will attract them toward you. When you occupy the inner throne, your frequency shifts from need, void, scarcity, to sufficiency, wholeness, fullness. The universe, which is repelled by a vacuum but drawn to fullness, responds immediately. The battle for sovereignty is frequently determined in the first 10 minutes of the morning. The profane wakes and immediately reaches for his external device. He begins absorbing the world's noise, its emergencies, its demands, its chaos. Energetically, he is requesting instructions. He is asking the world, "What should I fear today?" He dresses in the servant's uniform before his feet touch the floor. The sovereign never engages the world before first engaging himself. Before rising, he must install the invisible crown. When you refuse to justify your choices, when you decline and offer no elaboration, you are transmitting an unmistakable signal of inner authority. Your no is a complete declaration. It requires no footnotes. The world will await your explanation. Do not provide it. Sustain the silence. In that silence, your standing elevates significantly. You are communicating, "My will is its own justification. I do not require excuses to govern my own existence." Initially, this will feel uncomfortable, but you will observe something consistent. People begin respecting you more profoundly. The world instinctively devalues those who over-explain and respects those who stand unmoved. Your yes only carries genuine weight when your no is inviolable. Consider the quality of your gaze. Your eyes are the transmitters of your will. The profane carries an evasive, searching gaze, scanning for approval, monitoring for threats, seeking validation in the expressions of others. The sovereign carries the gaze of ownership. Imagine entering any space as the one who holds the authority over that environment, not with arrogance, but with the composed certainty of one who possesses the keys. How would you observe the room? Not with fear, not with the hunger for acceptance, with benevolent, composed evaluation. When you enter a space or engage with another person, sustain eye contact 1 second longer than is socially standard. Do not break the gaze out of nervous accommodation. That sustained contact transmits a powerful subconscious signal. I am complete. I require nothing from you. That signal disarms those who would seek to destabilize you and magnetizes those who would align with your mission. Urgency is the mark of the servant. The servant is hurried because time belongs to his superior. He is afraid of falling short. The sovereign is never rushed. The sovereign possesses time. If the sovereign arrives at a particular moment, that is when the relevant event commences. You must eliminate the vibration of urgency from your system. Move with deliberate composure, 10% slower than the habitual pace. Speak with measured weight. When you slow your physical rhythm, you transmit a feedback signal to your entire system. Everything is governed. There is no genuine threat. Your cortisol diminishes. Your presence intensifies. Large celestial bodies move with majesty. Small, disoriented fragments move erratically. Be the planet, not the debris. The crystal throne technique. Visualize yourself elevated, surrounded by an impenetrable, transparent barrier. Below, in the common space, people shout, judge, panic, or attempt to manipulate. You perceive them, you hear them, but their transmissions arrive at the surface of your field and dissipate. They do not penetrate. When someone directs criticism or an attack at you, do not retaliate. Do not defend yourself. Defense signals vulnerability. If the sovereign descends from the elevated position to struggle in the common space with someone seeking conflict, he has already conceded the higher ground. Even if he prevails in the immediate exchange, the positioning is lost. Instead, observe the agitated individual with composed curiosity. This person is experiencing significant turbulence. How interesting. That emotional distance is pure, distilled power. Non-reaction to an attack is simultaneously the greatest humiliation for the aggressor and the most complete victory for the sovereign. The sovereign's greatest privilege is authenticity. The servant deceives to protect himself, to accommodate others, to manipulate outcomes. The sovereign has no fear of consequences. Therefore, he can afford the luxury of complete honesty. Express what you genuinely think, with appropriate manner, but without the distorting filter of fear. Do not perform amusement at what is not amusing. Do not signal agreement when you do not agree. Every performance of conformity is an abdication, a declaration that the group's comfort is superior to your integrity. Paradoxically, this radical authenticity is what generates the most enduring influence. The world is starved for something genuine. When people encounter a presence that is not performing, they are drawn toward it instinctively. Sovereignty carries a price, the solitude of the elevated position. As you ascend toward the 33rd degree, many former associations will withdraw. Those accustomed to your previous, more accommodating version will feel unsettled by your new authority. They will interpret your transformation as coldness or arrogance. They will attempt to pull you back toward former patterns through the leverage of guilt. The sovereign must possess the resilience to endure the solitude of the summit. You cannot transport every previous relationship to your new altitude. The eagle navigates alone. But this solitude is temporary, because when you radiate with the light of genuine sovereignty, you begin drawing other sovereigns toward you. You cease attracting those who require rescuing and begin attracting those who are already masters in their own domains. You exchange quantity for quality. You establish a new court composed of equals. Finally, the sovereign's relationship with material resources is defined by a single distinction. The king never experiences need. The king requires. The difference is entirely vibrational. Need is a void requesting to be filled. Requirement is a logistical instruction. Treat abundance not as something you must pursue, but as the natural consequence of being governed by a consciousness of sovereignty. When you receive material resources, do not react with the surprise of someone receiving an unexpected gift. Nod your head and acknowledge the system is operating correctly. Let us continue. The normalization of abundance is the seal of genuine sovereignty. Chapter 9. The Law of Vertical Time. The Hourglass. The ninth law of the 33rd degree fractures the linear illusion. Time is not a horizontal line extending from origin to termination. Time is a vertical depth opening within the present moment. The profane inhabits the surface of time, horizontal. The master inhabits the depth of eternity, vertical. You currently reside in horizontal time, a straight line. To your left is the past, your memories, your accumulated wounds, your former identity. It is a repository of concluded events you carry as additional weight. To your right is the future, your aspirations, your anxieties, the as yet unborn. The human tragedy is this. Most people invest the overwhelming majority of their conscious attention on the left, lamenting what has passed, or on the right, anticipating what has not arrived. They are almost never positioned at the center. Their bodies exist in the present moment, but their consciousness is perpetually traveling between yesterday and tomorrow. Since energy follows consciousness, their creative power is dispersed across time rather than concentrated. In the single point where action is possible, the master executes a 90-degree rotation. He ceases looking at the horizon line and directs his attention downward, into the depth of the instant. He enters vertical time. Each second becomes not a step forward, but a door inward. In vertical time, there is no before or after. There is only depth. When you enter verticality, psychological time suspends. You have experienced this in moments of profound engagement, intense love, or creative immersion. The clock becomes irrelevant. That is the natural operating state of the master. The symbol of this law is the hourglass. Examine it closely. The upper chamber contains infinite possibility, the future. The lower chamber contains crystallized experience, the past. But movement, action, and life occur only in the narrow passage between them. That passage is the present moment. It is the sole location where the grain of sand moves. It is the only coordinate where you possess genuine power. The profane attempts to widen the lower chamber by clinging to the past, or to rupture the upper chamber through anxiety about what is to come. The master directs his complete attention to the passage itself. He understands that he can process only one grain of sand at a time. Anxiety is the attempt to force an entire volume of sand through the passage in a single instant. The result is obstruction. The nervous system collapses under the impossibility of the demand. When you experience the sensation of internal haste, the feeling that you will not arrive in time, that there is insufficient margin, activate the emergency return. Declare internally with force, "Stop." Make physical contact with your body, your chest, your leg. Your body always exists in the present. Your mind is the traveler. By touching the body, you compel the mind to return to its actual location. Inhale and hold the breath. During controlled apnea, the brain cannot project into the future. You are forcing a complete system reboot to the current moment. Exhale slowly and ask, what is genuinely absent from this precise instant? Not in 5 minutes, not tomorrow, now, in this breath. The answer is invariably nothing. In this moment, you are breathing. You are sustained. The crisis exists in your imagination of the future, not in the reality of the present. The master practices radical concentration on a single task at a time, respecting the physics of the narrow passage. 1 grain per moment. If he is consuming a meal, he only consumes the meal, tasting it with full sensory engagement, with gratitude. If he is composing, the world dissolves and only the work exists. If he is listening to another person, that individual becomes the sole presence in his universe. Before initiating any activity, regardless of its apparent scale, the master pauses and consecrates the moment. For this duration, this work is my complete universe. I give my totality to this act. Through this consecration, time dilation occurs. When you invest 100% of your awareness into a task, subjective time expands. You enter the state of flow. You accomplish in 20 minutes what a divided mind requires 2 hours to produce. Depth generates velocity. Dispersion generates delay. One of the most significant thieves of life is the experience of waiting. Waiting in a line, waiting in disrupted traffic, waiting for a response. The profane is tormented by waiting, feeling that time is being extracted from his existence. The 33rd degree master has eliminated the concept of waiting from his operational vocabulary. For the master, there is no dead time. There is only unassigned time. When the master finds himself in circumstances of apparent stillness, a delayed journey, an unexpected pause, he does not project himself toward the moment of resolution. He employs that unstructured gift of time to descend into verticality. He observes his breathing. He transmits silent acknowledgement to those around him. He anchors his decree. He transforms the waiting space into an improvised sanctuary. The interval others lose in agitation, he reclaims in presence. You transmute the lead of apparent obstruction into the gold of genuine depth. The most advanced application of vertical time is in the domain of manifestation. The master does not perceive the future as something approaching. He perceives it as something already existing in the eternal now, on a different frequency of the same unified field. For the master, visualization is not imagining what has not yet occurred. It is remembering what already exists on a higher layer of reality. Connect with your future self, your real self, as it exists on the frequency of your fulfilled potential. Ask it to transmit the sensation of that reality to you now. Feel that sensation. Anchor it in your body's present experience. When you carry the vibration of the accomplished future within the physical present, have folded time. You have superimposed the upper chamber of the hourglass onto the precise point of passage. The universe cannot sustain two contradictory frequencies in the same consciousness for an extended duration. Either your vibration descends to the former reality, or the former reality ascends to meet your new frequency. If you sustain your position in the verticality of the remembered future, reality rises. Chapter 10. The Law of the Keystone. Unity. This is the final illusion, the deepest and most pervasive error of the profane and even of the advanced aspirant, the illusion of separation. You believe you are a particle within an ocean. You believe you are a small transmitter directing signals toward an immense satellite. The 10th law, the final law of the 33rd degree, is the dissolution of that boundary. The master is not positioned within the universe. The universe is positioned within the master. There is no interior and exterior. The observer observed, and the act of observation are a single unified phenomenon. You are the keystone that holds all of reality in coherent form. Examine the stone arch. A pillar rises on the left, force, masculine, active. A pillar rises on the right, form, feminine, receptive. Both extend toward the sky, yet they remain separate. If they remain in isolation, they are two disconnected towers without functional purpose. For them to become useful, they must curve toward each other. They must seek each other. And at the elevated point where they should collide and collapse, the keystone is inserted. The keystone is the wedge-shaped element that unites the force of the left with the form of the right. It redirects the weight from one side to the other. It transforms tension into lasting stability. In your life, the keystone is the consciousness of unity. Until this moment, you have operated within duality, subject pursuing object, will encountering resistance, self against world. This duality generates friction. It creates distance. The law of the keystone reveals, you are the object you pursue. There is no distance. The resources you seek are not something external to be obtained. They are a quality of your own energy, waiting to be recognized. Health is not in the physician. It exists within your vibrational pattern. Love is not residing in another person. It is your own essential nature seeking its own reflection. When you position the keystone, you cease pursuing and begin emanating. You recognize that everything you perceive externally is a mirror of your own interior. And if everything is you, what can you genuinely fear? What can you authentically lack? The ancient alchemist declared, "All is contained within all." Modern physics describes the holographic universe, where each fragment of the whole contains the complete information of the entire pattern at reduced resolution. You are a holographic fragment of the universal mind. This means you do not carry a portion of the source's capacity. You carry the complete code of that capacity within your center. You do not need to establish a connection to the universal field. You are the signal itself. The profane addresses a deity positioned externally, elevated in some distant domain, capricious and selectively responsive. He experiences himself as small. The 33rd degree master does not address this concept of divinity from a position of supplication. He operates from the recognition that his consciousness and the universal consciousness are the same fabric in different expressions. When the master thinks, the universal intelligence thinks through him. When the master decrees, the law of cause and effect activates in alignment with that decree. This is not the arrogance of the diminished personality declaring, "I am God." It is the declaration of supreme responsibility. I am the channel through which the source experiences itself in physical form. It is simultaneously the most complete humility and the most complete power available to a human consciousness. When you understand that you constitute the whole, the struggle concludes. Why would you contend against your own hand? Why would you resist your own extended body? If your adversary is a projection of your unintegrated shadow, you do not fight, you integrate. If scarcity is a projection of your unhealed fear, you do not combat it, you heal the source within yourself. The keystone brings a peace that is difficult to articulate to those who have not experienced it. It is the termination of us against them. It is the dissolution of self against world. The world is your extended body. When you cease resisting reality and begin cooperating with it as you would cooperate with your own living system, friction disappears. You enter perpetual flow. Things cease being laborious because there is no longer any opposing force. There is only you, moving in coherence with yourself, reflected in the mirror of the cosmos. When you encounter someone operating from fear, limitation, or aggression, do not engage their mask, their conditioned personality, their wounded ego. Employ what we might call the sovereign recognition. Look past the surface presentation and acknowledge the fundamental nature beneath. That same spark of universal consciousness that inhabits you also inhabits them, obscured by fear and the accumulated weight of their unexamined history, but present nonetheless. Address the spark rather than the mask. When you do this, something occurs at a level beneath ordinary social exchange. By recognizing their fundamental nature, you activate something in them. They frequently grow calmer, more respectful, more genuine, without understanding why. You have bypassed their defense architecture by refusing to engage with it. You have spoken directly to their sleeping sovereignty. The profane employs the concept of attraction, attempting to draw desired circumstances toward himself from a distance, which inherently implies separation. The 33rd degree master employs emanation. Since the keystone unifies the apparent duality of subject and object, the master recognizes that the resources, relationships, and circumstances he desires are already present within his field of consciousness in latent form. They are not elsewhere to be pursued. They are here, in a dormant state, awaiting the appropriate frequency to activate. You do not pursue them. You radiate the quality of consciousness that corresponds to their nature. Think of the sun. The sun does not pursue light, nor does it attract light from elsewhere. The sun is the source of light. It radiates it continuously outward. If you desire genuine connection, do not pursue it as a starving person pursues food. Radiate connection. Vibrate at the frequency of genuine presence. Become so densely yourself, so genuinely, completely present, that those who are capable of authentic connection have no alternative but to enter your sphere. If you desire material abundance, cease pursuing it. Radiate the vibration of value. Create, serve, contribute at the highest level you are capable of sustaining. When you shift completely from the posture of acquisition to the posture of emanation, the pressure dissolves entirely. There is no longer any anxiety about outcomes, because the source of all desired outcomes is recognized to be within. Emanation is a perpetual outward flow, and by physical law, what consistently flows outward must be consistently replenished. The more you radiate, the more the source within you activates. It is a self-sustaining cycle of energy at progressively elevated levels. If the external world is a projection of your internal world, a mirror of your consciousness as we have established across these 10 laws, then you hold a responsibility that is simultaneously terrifying and liberating. You are responsible for everything you perceive. If you observe injustice in the world around you, there exists a seed of that pattern within your own consciousness. If you observe scarcity in your environment, it corresponds to a frequency of scarcity active within your own field. The profane declares, "That is not my responsibility." He removes himself from the equation. The master declares, "This exists within my reality. Therefore, it is operating within my consciousness. I will address it at the source." This is not guilt. This is total power. Only the one who assumes complete responsibility for what they perceive possesses the genuine authority to alter it. The keystone carries one final property that renders it essential to the integrity of the entire structure. It makes the arch self-sustaining. Once positioned correctly, the arch supports itself through the balanced distribution of force. The same gravitational pressure that should cause the arch to collapse is precisely the force that holds it together, because the keystone redirects that pressure into stability. When you achieve the consciousness of unity, when you position the keystone of your own awareness, you become self-sustaining. You no longer require external validation, external permission, or external resources to maintain your foundation. The very pressures of existence, challenge, opposition, uncertainty, become the forces that maintain your coherence and deepen your stability. The master who has walked these 10 laws does not dissolve into abstraction and abandon the world of human experience. The highest expression of mastery is the voluntary return. He returns to the marketplace, to the family, to the organization, but he returns fundamentally transformed. He returns not to compete or to accumulate, but to serve as an anchor point of stability for those still navigating the earlier stages of the journey. His presence orders a room. His composure calms agitation. His certainty creates a field within which others begin to access their own sovereignty. He becomes a living keystone, not holding himself together, but holding space for an entire community to achieve a coherence it could not access without a center. In the end, you recognize that the temple you have been constructing throughout this entire journey is not a material structure, nor an accumulated financial position, nor a perfected external life. The temple is the human being, and you are one of its living stones. By perfecting your own nature, by squaring your own stone through the application of these 10 laws, you fit precisely and irreplaceably into the architecture of human evolution. You make the entire structure more coherent, more resilient, more capable of enduring the forces that would otherwise bring it into collapse. The doors of the temple have closed. The ritual is complete. You entered as a rough stone, unpolished, battered by the hammer of chance, a subject of your own undirected passions and the chaos of an unsupervised inner world. Through the 10 laws, you have been shaped. In the first phase, you acquired the discipline of silence and the architecture of order. You learned to walk the mosaic pavement, integrating your light and shadow into a unified force. In the second phase, you took hold of the instruments. You aligned your existence with the square of genuine rectitude and the compasses of sovereign vision. You recovered the lost word, learning to decree rather than to petition. You accepted the fire of the phoenix, releasing the constricted ego so the sovereign could emerge. You learned the hydraulics of the pelican, serving the world in order to maintain your own flow. In the third phase, you ascended to the throne. You inhabited your own sovereignty. You folded time in the vertical hourglass. And finally, you positioned the keystone, dissolving the foundational illusion of separation between your individual consciousness and the fabric of the cosmos. You now carry the understanding of the Grand Inspector, not as a distinction to display, but as a weight of sacred responsibility. The Grand Inspector is the one who genuinely perceives. He can observe the chaos of the world without being absorbed by it. And through his presence alone, he begins to impose coherent order. He sustains the architecture of reality for those who are still finding their footing. Wherever you now go, you carry the temple with you. Your mind is the lodge. Your heart is the altar. Your will is the gavel of creation. You no longer seek the light. You have become the source from which light is distributed. The world will continue to present its tests. Chaos will continue to seek entry. But you will remain centered on your axis, knowing that nothing can genuinely reach the one who has mastered himself. Your work is complete. Your reign has begun. The final question is not what you will accumulate. The question is what world you will construct with the power you now hold within you. If elite, Success Audiobooks has opened something permanent in the way you think, in the way you relate to power, to time, to your own nature. Then join this community of initiates. Subscribe to Elite Success Audiobooks and continue your instruction in the greater mysteries that await. Leave your mark on this work by sharing it with one person you know is ready to cross from the outer court into the inner sanctuary. The work is sound. The stone is placed. Go in peace and in power. Leave the number 520 in the comments. 520 in quantum numerology carries the vibration of complete transformation, the frequency of the one who has passed through the fire and emerged as the sovereign they always were. If these 10 laws have repositioned something fundamental in your understanding of who you are and what you are capable of, place your 520 here. This community of masters is witnessing your arrival.